Hello, my horror friend fans. Welcome back into the Chrono Cabin. Well, friends, it's hard to believe that 2023 is almost a ghost. No pun intended. This video is going to be dropping right before Christmas, so if you do want a few last-minute Christmas horror movies or Yuletide horror to watch, I did a video last year. Check it out. I think those choices still stand up now. So 2023, I think it's been a great year in horror. I really do. I think we've had some great horror movies come out, some great series come out, and we've had some great horror video games come out. It's been a busy year for the horror scene, and I love it. It's great. I'm hoping 2024 will be just as busy. So in this video, I'm going to talk about my favorite horror movies that I watched this year, along with my favorite horror video games that I played this year, or that I'm currently playing, whichever way you want to look at it. Before we get into it, I just wanted to plug my new podcast, Stay Out of Them Woods. You can check us out on Spotify, iHeart Radio, and Apple Podcasts. Check it out. We talk all things horror, and we also do an improv horror scene, which is a lot of fun. So we just randomly come up with an idea and we just go with it. It's not scripted. And I play music to it as we're taping, so it's actually a live taping, if you will. It's a lot of fun. Check it out. Now, let's get into my favorite horror movies of 2023. And let me tell you, I didn't want to make this video too long, so I really narrowed it down to just a few movies, but there's a lot of great movies that came out. These were just my top favorite this year. Since it is almost Christmas, we'll talk about It's a Wonderful Knife. I actually watched this movie a couple nights ago. It just released on Shudder, and it was just in time to make my top list for 2023. I thought it was great. All you have to know about this movie is if you take It's a Wonderful Life, you turn it into a slasher, and you move it to modern times. That's all you need to know. I guarantee you, you're gonna have fun with this one. I really enjoyed it. I was laughing. Justin Long, I gotta tell you, I'm really enjoying him in these horror movies. Like, he's really kind of graced the horror scene well. A lot of you might not remember, but Justin Long actually got started as a spokesperson for Apple. He was in all these Apple commercials back in the day, and I am really impressed that he was able to break out of that. I don't think it really worked out that well for the Verizon guy, and my only point in that is I'm sure he made a lot of money, but Justin Long was able to kind of shake that Apple persona and go off to do a lot of great movies. So props to Justin Long, and he is fantastic in this movie. He plays a cringeworthy mayor. He had me cracking up through the whole movie, but just loved it. I mean, the town is even called Angel Falls, so it's great. And one thing I really do love in this movie is the night scenes. The night scenes are absolutely fantastic. They just are filmed so beautifully. I love lights at night, and when they're filmed well, I mean, it's magic. So I really enjoyed that one. Check it out. It's on Shudder. Next up is Totally Killer. You take a slasher movie, you put a time machine in it, and you just have a great time. It's very unique. It was kind of fresh, something new. I thoroughly enjoyed it. So Kierna Shipka goes back in time to try to stop the murder of her mother. What I loved about it was Kierna's character. I mean, she didn't grow up in the 80s, and this is what makes the movie great. I think if you grew up in the 80s, you're really going to appreciate this film. And I think the best thing about this is Kierna's character. Man, she is great. Her comedy timing is fantastic. Her character basically gets thrown back into the 1980s, and the fun of this movie is her reactions to how different things were in the 1980s versus how they are now. And I mean, it almost writes itself. You just have to see it. It's great. Her reactions are great to everything. It made me laugh. It's quite bloody. It's good. It's a good slasher. You know, my wife is not a huge horror fan. She doesn't like the really scary stuff. She was actually able to watch this, and she thoroughly enjoyed it. She was cracking up. So I highly recommend it. Check it out. The next film is When Evil Lurks. I have a term that I believe I just made up. It's what I call wander horror. And wander horror is sort of like The Last of Us HBO, right? Where you're journeying through kind of an apocalyptic landscape. Okay, so This is a wander horror film, in my opinion. And it's also a possession story, but in a very, very different way. It was absolutely unique how they did this. This is a hard one to watch. It is very, very creepy. There's some animal cruelty, which I don't like, but obviously there were no animals hurt in this movie. However, it's hard to watch, but it's kind of a stunning movie to watch. And this is from Argentina. And in Argentina, congrats. I think we're going to see a lot of horror content coming out of Argentina based on the popularity of this movie. But it is very dark, it's twisted, it's strange, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. So check that one out. It's on Shudder. My next pick for 2023 was Hell House LLC Origins. Yeah, this one I thought wrapped up the story in a very nice way. So one thing I'm going to tell you, the best way to do this is to watch Hell House LLC, then watch Hell House LLC Part 2, Part 3, and then watch Origins, okay? Because you really need to watch them in order, and I think it's best if you do it all in a couple sittings. They're great movies, great way to get through, but I really like the way they wrapped up the story in this. I'm usually not a fan of found footage. I got kind of tired of it at some point, but I have to say, the way they did it documentary style, it made it a lot more interesting for me, and the story is really good. The overarching story of the entire franchise is very good, and they kept very true to it. But they really explain a lot of things in Origins, so that's why I'm saying make sure you watch Part 1, 2, and 3, and then watch Origins. So check that one out. The Fall of the House of Usher, Mike Flanagan. Yes, I'm a big Mike Flanagan fan, and I'm also a big fan of the literary works of Edgar Allan Poe. When I had a literature class in high school, we studied a lot of Edgar Allan Poe, and I always liked his writings. I thought Mike Flanagan actually brilliantly wove together a bunch of Edgar Allan Poe stories. Yes, it's The Fall of the House of Usher, but it's a bunch of other stories from Edgar Allan Poe too. Lots of Easter eggs in there from the stories, but the cast was great. It's the usual cast he likes to work with. Very dark. He kind of modernized the whole thing, which I thought was great. I might be a little biased because I like Mike Flanagan's works, but I also really, really like the literary works of Edgar Allan Poe. So, I don't know. You got to tell me what you think about it. Also, since I'm talking about limited series, I really do think The Last of Us was a masterpiece. Now, I have played both games. I have played The Last of Us and The Last of Us Part 2, okay? So, I really enjoyed it because even though I knew what was going to happen, it was really fun seeing the adaptation to film. And honestly, if you did side-by-side comparisons of some of the scenes in the game and in the series, it was literally almost identical. It was just incredible how they did it. I'm actually very much looking forward to see how they're going to do Part 2, the next season, because if you haven't played Part 2, something happens that is going to piss a lot of people off. And I'm not really sure how they're going to deal with it, but I'm looking forward to seeing what they're going to do. So I do think that's going to be coming out in 2024, if I'm not mistaken. So I'm really hoping we don't have to wait, too long before the second season does come out. Finally, my absolute favorite pick of 2023, this is the movie that I put on top of everything else, is Evil Dead Rise. I absolutely loved Evil Dead Rise. Saw it in the theater. I did a video on it if you want to go back and see the further details. But, I just really like the direction that they are taking with the Evil Dead franchise. We are now in kind of a new universe. And I think this is a smart idea. I think it was great. I really like Lily Sullivan in this. I have not seen her in pretty much anything. This is the first time I've seen her in a horror movie. And I thought she absolutely is taking the reins. And she's not here to replace Ash. She is her own character now. And that's what I like about it. And another aspect that I think is really great going forward with this franchise, well, first of all, they never actually call the Book of the Dead the Necronomicon. They kind of ditched the name the Necronomicon. I don't know if you noticed that. But 2, in this version, there are 3 Books of the Dead, okay? Not just 1, like in the old franchise, there are 3. So what I think they're going to do now is have Lily's character go out and seek out the other 2 Books of the Dead. And I think that could open itself up to a nice little trilogy here. And I'm really kind of curious now, because now we've added a new lore behind this, and I could see her like going to some remote countries, and I don't know how they're gonna do it, but I think it would be great if they follow her storyline and she's going out to try to find the remaining books of the dead. We'll see what happens with it, but hands down, I love the darkness in the movie. It was very, very intense. The intensity is what really surprised me the most. It is a creepy movie, and just everything about it, I think it hit on all cylinders. Can't say enough good things. That's why it is at the very, very top of my horror 2023 list. Now, before I get to my horror video games, I have a few letdowns this year that I thought I'd mention. Not that they were so awful, it's just I think I was hoping for more. So we'll start with The Boogeyman. I did a video on this a while ago. You know, I was okay seeing it in the theater. I think it was a little too long. It could have been cut by probably 25 minutes. And the whole thing was a little cliche with the boogeyman only coming out at night, and if light is the thing that draws it back, well, then I think you have more control over the situation than these characters did. And the idea is not that unique. If you look at Alan Wake, I mean, think Alan Wake. If you look at Alan Wake, I mean, and Alan Wake 2, the video games, I mean, that's how you fight a lot of these dark entities. You flood them with light. So anyway, I was hoping more from the boogeyman. Yes, I thought it was creepy, but I didn't think it was like, it wasn't overly creepy. The next one, I'm sorry to say, is Insidious: The Red Door. I was kind of let down by this movie. I love how they brought back the entire cast. It was great. Absolutely great in that. But the start was good, but I just felt like it fell apart. I was really expecting more. This was a hard one, though, because, I mean, I have to say, the original Insidious to me is a masterpiece. So if you want to talk masterpieces, that's it. But I like part 2, and I actually really liked part 3. So I think I was just kind of really expecting more from this. I really didn't like the whole reveal. Overall, I wanted more from it, and I think my hopes were just way too high for it. So that was a pretty big letdown for me. The Last Voyage of the Demeter. Yeah, I really wanted to like this one. I like the overall look. I think the acting was good. The fantasy look was great. It's kind of like an old fan. It was what I imagined it would look like. However, the characters were a little one-dimensional to me, and this one, it was hard for me to point a finger at like what exactly I didn't like about it. But yeah, it didn't hit me the way I thought it would, or that I hoped it would. Great blood, great gore, all that, but no. The biggest letdown this year for me was Exorcist Believer. Yeah, it's not any fault of the actors. The movie looks great, it's fantastic. I just felt like some producer came in and said, hey, you know what we can do? All right, follow this. Instead of just one girl possessed, we're gonna have 2. Yeah. So, I mean, it was gimmicky to me in a way, and I like how they brought back old characters from the original, but I felt myself a little bored during the movie, I gotta be honest. I went and saw that one with my friends, and yeah, I think we all kind of felt the same way. I don't know how they're gonna recoup on this, honestly, because it cost them $400 million just to get the rights, and this is supposed to be a new trilogy, and this trilogy is starting with a movie that's kind of mediocre in my opinion. It started off, again, this is another one that started off good, but I felt like it just fell apart like midway through. It just, the plot, it just, I don't know, it didn't do it for me. Finally, let me get on to my favorite horror games of 2023. I think by far my favorite game of 2023 is probably Alan Wake 2. Now, I really liked Alan Wake. I did do a video on the Alan Wake remaster. I played through it, and I do recommend that you play through Alan Wake if you're going to play Alan Wake 2, because otherwise it's not going to make a lot of sense. Or if you don't want to play through Alan Wake, at least watch a video that sums everything up, you know, because otherwise you're going to be pretty confused. But Alan Wake 2, so far, in my opinion, I've really been enjoying it. I haven't passed it yet, but I really do enjoy it. It's difficult, I gotta tell you. It's a little complicated at times. I find myself getting stuck and kind of wandering around trying to figure out what to do. The mechanics take a little getting used to, because there are things that you can do with these storyboards that can change things within the reality of the scene you're in. Alan Wake is all about reality, in my opinion. It's all about how you perceive reality. It's a sort of a middle ground between the spiritual world and the real world. Anyway, even though it's challenging and I've been stuck, I still like the game. The narrative is great. It did win Best Narrative at the Video Game Awards for 2023. And I can see why. The story is really, really fantastic, and that's part of what I love in gaming. I love narratives in game, and I've told you all this before. That's my thing. I love narratives, and the narrative is absolutely fantastic. I recommend it if you liked Alan Wake. This is, obviously you're probably already playing this. So, but if you've never gone into the Alan Wake games, I really recommend go back, play Alan Wake. You can get it pretty cheap. In fact, I think it's free on PlayStation Plus. Don't quote me on that. I might be wrong. But yeah, play that first and then play part 2. The next one is Resident Evil 4 Remake. Yeah, I really like this game. Here's a fun fact. I never actually played Resident Evil 4. I've always liked Resident Evil. I just never played that game. This is actually an interesting pivot in the Resident Evil franchise, because this is where they changed it to more of an action type game. I don't know what it was like in the original, but I'm glad I'm playing this version, because it's a hard game. I have to admit, you have to really make sure you have enough ammunition, because you do get out of it. I had a couple situations where I just had nothing. I just had to run, But yeah, it's great. I like the visuals. Visuals are good. And again, narrative, great. I really do like the narratives in the Resident Evil franchise, especially in Biohazard and Village. That was a great story. You can jump into those too. You don't need to play any other Resident Evils if you don't want. You can play Biohazard and then Village, but in that order, because they're kind of in that same universe there. But yeah, Resident Evil 4 Remake, highly recommend it. It's absolutely great. And the last game I'm gonna throw in is Lies of P. Now, I just started this game. My friend Carlos, who you see me go to the movies with all the time, he got me this as a gift, and it's great because I was actually planning on getting this game. I was planning on getting it next year though, but he got it for me. So I randomly just kind of popped it in. I've already played a number of hours, and so far I really like it. It's a great horror game. Horror fantasy. I think this game sort of got put on the backside because at the end of this year, we had so many games come out. Big games. It was just like August, September, October. It was just nuts. And I think, I believe this game came out right when Baldur's Gate 4 came out and a couple others. So it may have kind of made this game underrated, if you will, because I don't know how many people talk about this game, but so far I'm really liking it, and I have heard from other gamers that they've recommended it to me, saying you're gonna like this game. So I'm putting this on my list, even though I've only kind of just started, but I really enjoy the game, so I'll probably talk more about it at the end. And friends, that about does it for 2023. If you've stuck around this long, it means you like the video, so please give it a like. Please subscribe. Please, I'm trying to grow the channel. It's growing slowly. That's okay. I have fun doing this anyway, But I want to wish everybody a Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays. Hanukkah's already passed, but a belated Happy Hanukkah. And of course, I want to wish you all a happy and safe New Year. I will see you in 2024.